Hello folks, Chris yet again, and this week without the lockdown anymore. Of course, I look a little different without 6 months growth of hair. This is VK3AML, and this is the 6th of November, and tonight the program material will consist completely of ham radio field days and the sort of people that go along to them. I have so much in the way of video material recorded over the last 12 odd years that I've never streamed, never put on YouTube, never even edited, that I decided to pull the digit out and edit the stuff up this week. So for good or ill, you'll see a lot of ham radio activities that extend over the last 10 years, organised by people like Peter Parker, VK3YE, and more recently by Tom DeMamiel, VK3FTOM. Still in his teens, he's organising ham radio events, and more power to him. It's 9:29. At 9:30 we switch our transmitter on 147.475, and this tradition of Saturday night broadcasts was started by my predecessor with this call sign 3AML, Tony Sanderson, the late Tony Sanderson, who died in 2006, who was doing this sort of thing audio only in the 1970s, and I was one of the participants in all of that schmozzle in those days. It's 9:30, so I'll go on the air. Hello, this is VK3 Alpha Mike Lima, transmitting from Burwood East with the usual Saturday night selection of audio and video. The program style having been started by Tony Sanderson, the late Tony Sanderson, in the 1970s, carried on by Dave VK3ASE in the 1980s, 90s and early 2000s. And now I seem to be stepping into the hot seat for the Saturday night slot, just as Steve 3SL has for the Friday night slot. So this is a test transmission in which I'll be radiating audio related this week to ham radio field days and the sort of people who participate in them. I had taken video commencing in 2009 of various ham radio field days and decided it was time to sit down, pull the digit out, edit them and get them into live stream. So that's what you'll see tonight. The most recent of these was recorded as recently as Tuesday, Cup Day, at Columbia Park. There was a ham gathering, the first really since the lockdown, organised by Tom DeMamiel, VK3FTOM, an amateur who's still in his teens, but has been very active in the hobby and is pushing it along quite nicely, as you will see. So without any further ado, there being quite a bit of program material tonight to get through, I'll take you to Columbia Park in Wheelers Hill, an eastern suburb of Melbourne, on Tuesday. Columbia Park Wheelers Hill ham radio gathering organised by Tom DeMamiel 3FTOM. Transmissions of digital slow scan TV were done by myself and Terry VK3FTJS during this field day. And here come the first participants. On the left, Peter, VK3ACZ, with his wife in the red t-shirt, Tom pulling the trolley, and Jeff, VK3VJS, on the right. We transmitted a picture across to him and he transmitted the reply back.
Cool.
And here is Columbia Park, somewhat south of the police academy and somewhat to the southwest of Gels Lake. It's on Gels Road. This was my portable station, the table provided by Chris, VK3CJN, my tablet there on which I was able to do digital slow scan through the transmitter on the left. little die-cast box was the interface box. There's our antenna farm, HF on the right, VHF on the left, and the HF antenna had 2 poles. Now, this was to be a test for me to see if I could transmit slow scan TV from a portable location. I hadn't done it, I don't think anybody's done it from field days before, particularly not with digital slow scan. So you pull the SD card out of the camera, you put it into a card reader. This is having shot a few photographs. Card reader goes into the tablet. We then call up the photographs concerned that we want to transmit. Touchscreen's a little dicky to use, but you get used to it. How's it going over there, Terry? What time is it?
It's 11:15.
Oh, too early for lunch.
Yeah. Oh, well, no sausages. Who brought the sausages?
Somebody should have brought a barbecue, I see.
And no sending me flu bots like
No, Mira's got my bottle of that.
So we check on the photographs to see which one will transmit. That looks like a reasonable selection, so we move that into the transmit box on EasyPal digital slow scan software. And to transmit, we simply tap on the transmit button. And Terry sees this on his screen in Hoppers Crossing, 40 kilometres away. There are 64 subcarriers, each FM'd, carrying the digital information. And in 90 seconds he has a picture, which looks like this.
Time I listened to Ross and Russ.
And Terry was actually able to look in on our gathering from Hoppers Crossing, a distance of 40 kilometres across Port Phillip Bay. We sent about a dozen photographs across as the day progressed, just as a test. These are as received by Terry, 40 kilometres from us, which proves that you can send reasonably good pictures from any portable locale on 2 metres. Same goes for HF. It's all audio bandwidth. That's the transmitting station. And Terry was able to put these photos up on the EasyPal website for everybody to see. Unfortunately, that shirt tends to make me look fat. Mind you, there's a reason for that. I'm fat. This is what 2 years of lockdowns will do to you, along with bringing along Anzac biscuits and scoffing them down on a field day like that. I will have to desist. That's Jeff VK3VJS in the background at Columbia Park. Jeff brought his so-called survival kit, selection of transceivers, receivers, recorders and cameras, and a Baofeng at the top left. And this is our friend, gosh, I've blanked on his name, our friend, the forensic pathologist, VK3ECG, and he brought along some HF gear and was transmitting on 15 metres.
Oh, that's Dieter and he's
Cap off there. I've taken REC.
Hi there, yes, I'm sitting here at Wheelers Hill in East Melbourne, and we're just at Columbia Park. A group of people have got together to just sort of...
This is Dave, VK3ECG, talking.
Quite a few people here, which is a very nice, warm, balmy day here. From VK3 Echo Charlie Golf.
FFB? Well, the antenna direction is roughly correct. I was heading for the USA. No problem. The conditions today are not that good for DX, but your signal is about 5 and 5 here. 55 in Eastmont. Eastmont is between Bayswater and Ringwood in the eastern.
The real deal.
Real DX. About 10 kilometres.
Real DX.
10 k's is the Christmas
Enjoying the sunny weather, but at the moment inside at the radio. Over.
Because they all want to get some
Dave had a rather impressive piece of transmitting equipment. That's his low power antenna tuner. Peter 3ACZ, Jeff VK3VJS, and Tom VK3FTO.
I did the same thing.
And you were just like I imagined.
I did that with Craig MAT, and then was awfully surprised when I met him. And it was really fun. Peter.
Peter, ACZ. Oh, you're the one on the... Yeah, we're the two regulars. On the, yeah, that's right.
As usual, most people were socialising, not transmitting. I was offered a drink by Dave, but this cup, Coroners Society, you know what coroners do, so I politely declined. There's Dave 3ECG's antenna tuner, low power only. And I reckon these guys must have worked for a council at some stage. They all stand around watching one bloke doing all the work. On the left, Chris 3CJN. Next to him, Mike VK3EMB. Then Peter VK3ACZ. And the rest, I don't think I was introduced, so I don't really know these people except that they are involved with ham radio. Perhaps somebody looking in on the text box can text me with who these people were. There's quite a wind blowing, as you can see from the stuff blowing around. There's Mrs. 3ACZ and Tom, VK3FTOM.
No, I don't know what you're talking
you know
about.
what my antenna is.
Yeah, I do.
It's a piece of copper strip, 50 millimetres wide, 2 inches in our terminology, and I've stuck it on the inside of the window, vertical, and that's my antenna. And I've got 4 of them now.
The discussion is how to hide antennas. Interesting, most of us have to be concerned with that these days. That's Tom VK3FTOM's portable station, which he was away from at the time and socialising. And this is a final shot of the reserve that afternoon. We had a lazy time chatting under the gum trees. This is Jeff 3VJS and Tom. So all told, we had a pretty good day. Chris 3CJN in the middle, there's me. Just a selection of photos taken on the day. VK3JCO, John, one of our Easy Pal Thursday night group. Peter, VK3ACZ. And of course Tom, who organised the event. So thank you, Tom. This is VK3AML with the regular Saturday night test transmission, including lots of video inserts. We'll go on to our next video insert presently. I've known Peter Parker since the 1990s, but my first visit to him in his present home was here in Chelsea in 2009. So this was Peter 12 years ago, and he was whimsically testing an antenna where he could only get a certain repeater by climbing on the letterbox in front of his unit. So we had an afternoon where he showed me the local area, which he had just moved into the previous year, 2008, from Carnegie, I think. And we'll go back to that again. Sorry, a miscue. So from this base of Peter's in Chelsea, we walked down to the beach after him showing me a bit of equipment that he used in association with his FT817, which he carried about in a plastic box, as you see at the bottom there. This is Peter with a home-built receiver, 2009, and the ladder line going out to his HF antenna outside. That's the HF antenna he had in 2009, ladder line going up to an inverted V dipole, and there's a distant pole at the other end of the yard I think we might see on the right there, so that he could put out a reasonable signal on HF. The FT817 with its gel cell power supply and external speaker and an antenna tuner. We listened on 10 metres for a while, and then he took me to a rather less reputable frequency, which you see on the dial there. Then down to the beach, Chelsea Beach, where most people do parasailing or walking along the beach, but Peter has a different hobby, and that is setting up portable low-power stations, which you see here. Squid pole on the left holding up I think this was an inverted L antenna intended for 6 metres that we were operating on at the time, 6 metres sideband. So 12 years have gone by since these photos were taken. I took a little bit of video, but my early camera was only set up for 480p, and a rather grotty 480p at that, so I only got a snatch of video of what went on this day, and not much sound with it. Taken on a Canon camera, one of the first generation of electronic cameras, digital cameras. And there's Peter in 2009 at Chelsea Beach doing a bit of portable transmitting, jotting down details to be transmitted on bits of paper, everything carried in a shopping bag. That camera didn't like being pointed at the sun, as you'll see at the moment. Woo! South down Chelsea Beach towards Frankston, and Peter having a bit of a natter. So this was our first trip to Chelsea to see Pete just after his move. QRP by the Bay was started by Peter in the ensuing years, and this is the 2013 version of QRP by the Bay. Quite a few familiar faces there, and a lot of it was show and tell, the latest home-built equipment. I think that was an AM Class D transmitter that somebody had built, rather a nice piece of work. And it was blowing a gale, so the audio on this won't be much use to anybody. I'll keep it down low. Peter setting up the usual FT817. I think the guy at the back with the beard was the president of the MDRC for 1 or 2 years. And Peter pulling out various antenna tuners and gadgets to show. A little iambic Kia. About as small an iambic Kia as you could possibly imagine. I was intrigued by something that could be carried so easily, but Peter does a lot of pedestrian mobile work. Flawless CW. And somebody answered. I should mention, for the benefit of people listening on 147.475, that if you want to see the video component of this, Google VK3AML 6 November 2021. You're currently looking at coverage of the 2013 QRP by the Bay, conducted by Peter Parker. Peter doing a bit of video recording on the only video recorder he then had.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. Yeah, we've probably got maybe 10 or more QRP rigs and almost that number of antennas up here at Chelsea Beach. So you may well hear signals from other stations. We have John VK3AML tuning up, so you never know. You might get a call from him and maybe others.
I was in the other room actually for a while, so somebody did call me, would have been very remiss if we never heard of it. But I've got the video running at the moment, and then what I'll do is I'll try and see if I can do some editing on an editing program, if I can manage to do that. And see if we can work out how to put it on YouTube, and maybe that can be taken off YouTube by yourself or somebody else, and maybe piece a whole lot of bits and pieces together. And maybe make a little short clip. I must admit I've been enjoying watching those video clips of yours on YouTube, and I'm just wondering whether or not you're a daytime job. Are you a lecturer by any chance there, Peter, over?
No, not at all, Frank. Not a lecturer at all. And sorry to run through all the feedback I'm getting.
Ron 3AFW in the background. We then had a demonstration of something that was a little bit dodgy. This is a potato cannon, a compressed air cannon, which many amateurs have experimented with the idea of propelling some weight over trees, carrying a wire or perhaps a fishing line to pull a wire up eventually. And this amateur, I can't recall his call sign. He was British, had a strong British accent. He probably wouldn't like to be identified either with this, because I don't know whether these things get technically defined as a firearm, but he was determined to show us its projectile capabilities down on the beach, so we followed him down to the beach. I think that was VK3MGR back there, along with Peter. And I was intrigued to see what sort of a throw this would have, that I felt rather trepidous, because putting a lot of compressed air into a PVC tube, one wonders how many flexes of in and out a PVC tube can take before it eventually explodes. But anyway, this guy did it. Dug a little hole in the sand there. He had previously pumped up the air reservoir with air at high pressure, and there's a pressure release valve, the metal thing down near the sand at the bottom there. He'll get a wrench and he will open it. And there is, I think, a tennis ball inside the tube. So here we go. You won't hear the bang because the wind noise was so bad at the day, but I was very trepidous about this. You'll notice I'm keeping a reasonable distance and shooting on a very long lens. This is VK3AML with a regular Saturday test transmission. Here we go. Whoomp! And a potato goes into orbit. I don't know how many 100 metres out to sea it went. At least he had it pointed in a direction where there were no people or boats. He then went back for a second try. I have seen these compressed air cannons being experimented with by people like Mike 7MJ, who's put a lot of science into his one. I think it's been donated to the Reist people in Hobart now. Here we go, second try. Valve goes. Everybody stands back and bang! And another potato heads into orbit. Actually, it went up into the clouds and disappeared, so it must have been reasonably effective. That's probably the diciest thing I've ever seen tested at a QRP by the Bay. This was in 2013, 8 years ago.
And here is the portable station with squid poles all over the place.
The QRP by the Bay at this stage was only a small event, attracting less than a dozen people. These days it's common to get 20 or even 30 people through on the day. So we move on. We moved back to Peter's place after the afternoon event and had a look at some home-built equipment, including this, which was the first software-defined receiver I ever saw in operation. A chap named Alan, I forget his call sign, Alan on the left there, was operating this, and for the first time I looked at a waterfall display of transmissions on a band. How that's changed in its common nature. So we move on. For a next QRP by the Bay that I attended was in 2016, and I tried to devise an antenna for 160 metres that was portable. The main problem is finding a counterpoise, and there's 40 metres of wire on that, stiff wire to go up the squid pole, which I wrapped with exercise mats so that I could bind it to masts. And that specially designed clamp can clamp onto handrails to give you a good earth. There are a lot of handrails along beaches that are very useful for counterpoise. And I took the stuff down to Chelsea in that trolley. Way too heavy. It was another very blustery day, as you see here. So for a while we went back to Peter's place and he demonstrated, for example, this noisemaker, a multifunction tone generator, which was rather hilarious to listen to. Peter has a great background not only in reading internet sources but in printed sources, and he has a very impressive library which he extracts from constantly. Here he's showing Dan Murter and myself the operation of a loop antenna. He's particularly expert in antennas for restricted space and building interesting combinations of stuff. We discussed this linear amplifier during that visit, a Drew Diamond design. That's the power supply for it. I've yet to actually finish that, but it's a long-term project of mine. Back to the beach at 3 p.m, and we had the 2016 QRP by the Bay attracting quite a few people. It had expanded. That's Dan Murter on the left, VK3AML, I think. And that's young Tom, the future VK3FTOM with his mother behind Peter.
Next to the post office, just down the little road. Only about 100 metres.
This is 5 years ago. And I apologise for the quality of the video on this. At that time I only had a very poor 1080p production facility, so it's not up to my usual standard, but so far as I can't go back 5 years and reshoot, this is the best we'll have to do.
I'll dub in music afterwards.
I think that's Peter listening to one of his LIPD devices. Quite a turn-up of equipment. A BitX receiver, I think, was on show, and I don't know exactly what this stuff was. Perhaps Peter can fill me in later on the text box. But always there's a lot to see at QRP by the Bay. That's a complete home-built transceiver antenna switcher. And Paul, VK3HN, was there, I think it's 3HN, with his squid pole, inverted bead dipole. I was there actually with a 160 metre transmitter. I had a CCOM that I'd been given by Dave 3ASC, and that's my inverted L marked in red. A whole 40 metres of wire between two squid poles, very, very thin wire. And the CCOM could put out 15 watts of AM. And it's amazing how well this got out when we operated it against a counterpoise consisting of a metal handrail. Peter with Steve, VK3SL on the left, explaining the operation of, I think, an LIPD device that he'd designed. Peter 3SL not looking too happy with it. And that's VK3SKT in the background there.
And about plus 15 over 9, but there's just a little bit of fade on your signal, which I guess is part.
Talking to Clint 3CSJ on 160 metres from the beach. There's my squid pole. There's the earth that clamp.
And cutting back rose bushes and trying to get the lower driveway looking a bit more respectful. If there's any other stations like still thinking of the past, the VK3AML, VK3CSJ.
Yeah, VK3CSJ and the group VK3AML. That often happens, and I feel very flattered when it does. Tony was a great bloke. He was actually the best man at our wedding. So very, very sad to lose him just on 10 years ago now. Anyway, whoa, I almost got 15 watts in the face then. This antenna's flopping about quite a bit, but I'm surprised it's still up because I was using the thinnest of thin hookup wire for the horizontal section. And it's being blown, actually, there's a catenary, but the catenary isn't hanging down. Because of the wind, the catenary is sideways. I've never seen this before. We're just hoping that the one...
There's the far squid pole of our 160 metre inverted L, quarter wave, and occasionally seagulls would go flying very close to smashing the tiny wire between the two squid poles.
Even if the counterpoise is just a handrail. VK3, I don't know who it handed to, VK3YQS, I guess, if you're still there, VK3AML.
VK3AML, portable group, VK3YQS. That's in mobile. Yeah, the wind is certainly playing havoc, isn't it? It's very windy. It's probably the windiest spot in Melbourne there on the water's edge. I'm not too far away, but the car's even rocking a little bit. We'll go back to Dave and see if he's still copying me, and I'll give him a report seeing his note.
This is when I act as the attenuator.
I think we've got a mutual friend, VK3TKB Paul. I'm also a member of the Astronomical Society of Victoria. I don't get to Heathcote very often, but I'm sure you know Paul quite well. I think you might have caused some interference on your radio telescope a couple of times, not 40 metres, or 2 metres. Anyway, that's another story. VK3ASE mobile in the group, VK3YQS stationary mobile. Go ahead, Dave. VK3ASE mobile, I'm just going up Oliver's Hill, up Oliver's Army Hill, and...
Dave actually was portable on 160 metres, and he was touring around the Mornington Peninsula listening to me, giving reception reports, apparently with the quarter wave inverted L and that 20 metre length of handrail as a counterpoise. I was getting out all over Mornington Peninsula quite strongly on AM.
Maybe Clint's not getting me because there's a hill between me and Narrywarren North, but I'll put her over to Clint anyhow in case he's still copying VK3CSJ, VK3ASE mobile station, over.
I better hand it.
Primitive changeover. You get the clip and you take it from the transmitter to the receiver and back.
Or have you gone? VK3AML?
Negative, Chris. I heard that at the beginning, but well and truly by the end of towards his over, he faded right down into the noise, so I didn't hear the handover. Sorry about that, Dave. I'm not sure how well you're hearing me from the car there, but no, I didn't hear you hand it over to me, but you start off well, and then you sort of fade off towards the end of your over, so Yes, I think running 200-300 watts of AM from the car is probably a little bit better to go these days from a mobile point of view, or having a capacity head on top of your car would probably also work just as well, like Tim 3IM used to have on his car from old days.
That's Tom, VK3FTOM's dog, who was about to disconnect the 160 metre antenna. So there he goes. Oh dear. Oh dear. Put it back on before the SWR goes up. That was Tom we just panned up to, by the way.
Not all of them are interested in radio astronomy, which is kind of surprising. I've often sort of...
Illegal because it's a non-profit organisation.
So what was that?
But so are the Rosicrucians.
Not the Rosicrucians. We're not going to have that BS here. Thank you very much, even if it gets into Electronics Australia. VK3 ASC and the group VK3AML.
Now pull the plug off the receiver and put it on the transmitter, or vice versa.
No.
I did need a changeover relay, didn't I?
25/9 here when you're going through your system, so not a problem from home base. Just audio is very non-fi because you're using your 2-metre signal to patch through, obviously. It's 3541, by the way. The frequency is 3541, 3541 kilohertz, spot on. So the 3543 frequency was the last time that was used was probably 10 years ago. So 3541 we moved down because there was a bunch of other stations that used to come up on 4.5 with a regular sort of Friday night QSO.
The rumbling noise in the background is the roar of the surf coming in on the beach, only about 100 yards distant. It really was a very blustery day. We were hiding behind bushes to get this much recorded.
He moved down the band a bit, so it's now officially 3541 to be precise. There was no problems with mentioning the astronomical.
That's Steve SL playing funny buggers with his camera work.
So that should be on video, I hope.
And of course the coverage was patchy, but at least we got a good record of the equipment being used. Very simple equipment for AM on 160. The CCOM's receiver was shot, but I had my little digital readout receiver, the Sony.
To commence or cease.
The camera is on.
Anyway, we are now recording, so that's should be enough. There, Dave. Should we put a VK3ASC and the group VK3YE Portable Chelsea Beach.
And now I become the attenuator.
Just going past Mornington now, and seems to be going okay. I wonder if Doug is still out. Just put it over to Doug if he can still hear me. VK3ASC standing by. VK3ASC, VK3YQS stationary mobile. Yes, you actually went to 10 dB over 9. A bit of QSB, but you're holding steady S9 and readable 5, so no real change. In fact, I think you're probably getting into that hook of the bay where you can look straight across towards us more easily, so it seems to be improving, if anything, Dave. VK3 ASC mobile, VK3YQS stationary mobile. Yeah, quite amazing. You're a good signal too, Doug. Amazing. 160 mobile does work quite well if you don't have too much noise, so it's fantastic. Yeah, well, it's good. Well, it's good we're doing this test. So I'll put it back to Peter or Chris or Steve back at the base station. But the base station is amazing. VK3AML,
VK3ASC, VK3 Yeah, I'm surprised our batteries are holding out, but they seem to be doing quite well on the CCOM. It doesn't drag all that much in the way of current. Certainly it's very different to the other day with the MTR1. I mean, it's a magnificent audio on that MTR1, but oh God, the amount of current it drains for the amount of power it puts out is incredible. I'm tempted to get a larger gel cell actually and redesign the trolley that I have here. It's way too heavy for what it does, and it gets me very straight.
And eventually I did replace the gel cell, but with a lithium battery, and we wouldn't have seen those on the horizon at the time.
I genuinely say that this station is a pedestrian mobile station, but only just. I was very distinctly immobile at several points, including when I tried to push this trolley down onto the pier. I got bogged immediately in sand, so I have to think about that. I may actually have to bring some tarpaulins or something and roll it over the tarpaulins. 2 tarpaulins, one after the other, putting
ML and the group, marvellous group, and it's all happening down there. This is VK3AML, Narry Warren South.
Yeah, thanks very much, Clint. Really appreciate it. Actually, you're a lot stronger here than you are at my home in Burwood East. I think the Listerfield Hills or the southern end of the Dandenongs must really get in the way of us there. It's a bit of a similar story with 3AX Eric this morning when I heard him, incredibly strong.
The distortion on this, incidentally, is that I wasn't switching the receiver off, and you were getting overloaded receiver audio through that speaker in addition to my direct voice. So that's the reason for the distortion.
You can certainly detect a carrier from Eric 3AX back where we are, but in the east, in the outer east, it really, Eric's a bit of a problem. Down in the southern suburbs here, no problem at all. He really barrels in. Anyway, we should check on where Dave is at the moment. He's making his way slowly around the bay. Hopefully he hasn't driven off the end of Davies Bay Road into some enormously expensive private property and been impounded. VK3ASE, if you're still there, VK3AML.
Guys, I'll be listening in the background. VK3CSA. I'm just past the drive. We're sort of going through hills and trees, so it might be attenuated a bit, but just past the drive and heading through bushland. So that's where we are. The Dramana, 12 kilometres from Dramana, and just passing the Morningside Peninsula Line.
One of the beach handrails that runs down under the inverted L, and we're running a CCOM, about 15 watt transmitter AM, running from a gel cell. VK3, what was his call?
SC.
VK3SC, VK3 Alpha Mike Lima.
I got it in AC.
Thank you, Chris. Peter returning to you. Yes, I was just down there at the park, having a play and a listen. Got a bit cold though, so I came home. Thought I might jump on the air, my very first time on 160 metres. Thank you, Chris, for introducing me to it. I saw your antenna set up, I saw your radio set up. It's very good. I'm running into an OCF, an off-centre fed dipole that's not really designed for this frequency. So my swear isn't the best. But the Versatuna seems to be doing a good job on that. I've backed the power right off, but I'm not too far away from you, Chris. Probably only about 3 or 4 kilometres away. But I've been sitting on the side listening to all the goings on, so I thought I'd pop up. Say good afternoon. Thank you very much for introducing me to 160. My very first QZO on 160. I'll sit on the side and have a listen for a little bit, but I thought I'd pop up and say good day. So I'll put it back to you there, Chris. VK3AML, VK3SC. Just a report there, Peter. You're 5 over 9, plus 20 over 9 in Narry Warren South, Peter. Kicking up to 25 on modulation peak, so the antenna's not doing too bad for you. Name is Clint, VK3CSJ Narry Warren South, VK3SC, VK3CSJ. Thank you very much, Clint.
Not much. Occasionally there's a VHF field day.
Congratulations, everyone.
I'll sometimes go forward.
On 160.
There's a signal there, but it's very weak.
I'm going up Arthur's Seat. I'll give you a call when I get there.
Okay, Dave, got that. You're going over Arthur's Seat, and Steve got a bit of that on video. So we're being recorded from about 6 different sides. There's somebody with an Apple iPhone, 3JML, Jim Lynch, There's people peering in from all
Off the
angles.
seat, this is 160 metres mobile.
Anyway, VK3, who should I put it over to? Are you still there, CSJ, VK3AML?
Well, why has P got in?
No, he's not. VK3SC, are you still there?
Yeah, certainly am, Chris. No problem. Having a lot of fun listening in. And I think it's a wonderful idea to have the QRP day now.
It's on mobile.
Bit of sideband in the background.
Yes, okay, Dave, VK3AFE, VK3AC returning. Yeah, I get this problem. I need some more watts to get into the Melbourne area, but it's hanged on. Now, please. Peter just made a very rude comment. VK3ASE, VK3AML.
The trouble is I don't know how to receive text messages on this. On a band that's usually dead, namely 160 metres, this just goes to prove that it can be stimulated into action. This is Ralph Klimek on the mic now, VK3ZZC, making a welcome appearance. Ralph.
Tenors is about, that's almost a quarter wavelength.
It is.
Yes, yes. So it should be working extremely well. With, it looks like one.
Yeah, there'll be another one of these in February.
The counterpoise of which is Port Phillip Bay, so that should work exceptionally well. Alrighty, back to you, and now we'll call on the staff of VK3SL to perform the transmit-receive function.
All right. Whoa.
Very good. Okay, we'll find out what's happening about Rosebar a bit later on, and I better head back. And I'm sick of hearing buzzing noises and static and stuff, so I'll turn the radio down. Apart from I'll have Channel D on, and if I get back and I've missed everybody, I will come back on Channel D, and maybe someone can tell me where they are. But or give Chris a phone call at the last resort. Anyway, and that's direct from direct now from after seat on 1825. Okay, Ralph and everyone, thanks. I'll let you tidy up and then we'll start head down the highway. The VK3AFE is now off and clear. Cheers, Ralph. Cheers, Chris. Cheers, Steve. Cheers, Doug. Cheers, everybody.
Wait till he goes to patch, for goodness sake. Okay, patch. Hands clear.
Okay, Dave, that's good to hear from you. And we'll now leave this air clear for any other possible calls. This is VK3 Zulu Charlie, using the station facilities kindly provided by VK3SL at the QRP by the Bay.
Well, you could just get a mailbox and put in a tweet.
It's the station of VK3AML.
It's the station of VK3AML.
With the requisite trolley here.
That's true. Trolley.
True portable stuff.
True portable stuff. All right. So the effective call sign of this station is VK3AML. This is VK3 Alpha Mike Lima. Listening on this air for any possible calls.
Now you did the changeover.
BIG.
Oh. And there's Don Bainbridge.
Don.
Go ahead. Oh. Don't hit the transmit button while the receiver's attached, otherwise kaput.
And I'll just go direct from the mobile. And that's from the mobile, and you'll hear me from the mobile when it's on back away.
VIGs.
Apparently not. Yeah, no, just to let it get back. up. We've had an amazing activity day, but you just come on the end of it actually, and I've got to drive back there now. So that's the story. Back to you, Mr. Don. Yeah, I'm not sure if there's another station there.
Not us.
If they are, they're very weak. Okay, so you're transmitting.
Next one's in early February.
Via the network, are you? Or you, yeah, I suppose you've got a link back to home or something, have you, Dave? Over. Yeah, I have. Well, I've been mainly using a direct thing. I just up on Martha's seat. But obviously you couldn't hear me direct. But I was getting back to Chelsea okay. So that's the story there. Are you at home or are you portable? I'm at Geelong. Oh. Okay. Well, look, I better head back, and maybe you can give a few calls. They might still be there, but I think I was backing everything up. So
Give them a call.
I'll leave it with you and catch up with you soon then. You would have wind, no doubt. So, yes, I'm receiving you well. Just looking up the window to see what my antenna's doing. Why? Not moving around too much. I don't know what's going on here. There's big dips in the antenna current. It's down from what it was. I don't know. Press on regardless. Alright, so whereabouts are you then? VK3AML, portable VK3 BIG.
Now.
VK3 BIG, VK3AML. We're at Chelsea Beach, with 3YE is actually sitting next to me, 3SL, Adam, 3FO, FAJO, and Joe VK3YSP. I don't think I've met Joe before, but we've spoken on the air. We have, oh right, sorry. And there's Ralph Klimek.
He's on the 15th. Oh, very good.
Turn my way, Ralph. What's the call?
ZC.
ZZC, double ZC, VK3 double ZC. There are a number of others up by the table doing show and tell. They're all on higher frequencies, shorter wavelengths. I think we're the only one running AM at the moment. The rest are running that terrible system that was introduced in the 1960s and destroyed amateur radio. VK3 BIG, VK3AML.
Okay, and greetings everyone that's listening. Probably pretty windy and hard to hear very far. So greetings everyone at Chelsea, Ralph and Adam and Steve and a whole lot of others too that my memories let me forget. So that's all I've got to say. Are you sort of about to pack up or something? Okay, on your antenna set up and the waves breaking over the pier. It's certainly been a horrible day. I had plans to go to the bonfire. Thanks.
And so ended QRP by the Bay at the local restaurant, Inti I think it was called, a Peruvian restaurant, which later was a major attractor for QRP by the Bay. This is VK3AML with a regular Saturday night test transmission, and tonight I'm running an anthology of videos that I've shot over the last 12 years or so of field days, contests, all that sort of thing. So a lot of the people that are listening on the live stream and looking in will either see or hear themselves, one hopes. In that same year, 2016, Pete 3YE and I went to the Paratea Reserve in Frankston South for the VHF-UHF field day. This is in November 2016. I went down there by bus. Peter and I have an eccentricity, and that is we don't drive a car. So Peter joined me in the bus at Chelsea Station, as you'll see in a moment. The Chelsea Station, which is being rebuilt at the moment. And there's Peter with his Yagis and his pole. Off we went to Frankston South. Now, why the Paratea Reserve? The reason is the Paratea Reserve is at the summit of a range of hills, the highest range of hills if you look closely, behind Frankston, 160 metres above sea level. Quite a height, Very handy place for
Anyway, we've
VHF.
just arrived at the Paratea Reserve, and we've got a rather nice portable beam for 2 metres and 70 centimetres there ready to go, and Peter's got 2 squid poles there.
A squid pole and an aluminium telescopic mast.
And this is Peter doing his setup with, is this a squid pole? Yeah, it's a squid pole for 6 metres.
It will be using an end-fed wire antenna for 6 metres. A makeshift antenna, but one which might be useful given there's been talk of some sporadic ease. So
okay.
It's always worthwhile having 6 metres, just in case.
And you're using Velcro straps to hold that to the pole.
I'm using
Interesting.
Velcro.
We're not too far from the road here. Let's just have a look round. We're in bushland. What do they call this? The Paratea Reserve. There's our 2 metre beam. There's our 70 centimetre beam yet to go up. And there are houses, but not too close. And we're on a little sort of a trail here, which tells us that the principal mammalian resource here is the good old-fashioned swamp bush rat, which we hope we don't see. And there are signs up all over saying that we have to share these paths with snakes, which is even nicer. So welcome to nice, safe, not so sunny Australia in Frankston South. There's a few nice little bush flowers out here, actually, at the moment, he says. Hoping not to step on a bull ant's nest or something similar. There are lots of bull ants' nests here. You can actually see them everywhere. And I would be very surprised if we don't have echidna somewhere. Anyway, there's Peter doing all the preparations. And it's very hard to walk.
Peter was actually recovering an LIPD beacon from a tree that he put up there experimentally with a squid pole.
He's fishing for RF.
He is literally fishing for RF up there.
Peter's appliance is up in this tree. Having put up his inverted V dipole, Peter's now concentrating on putting up beam antennas for 70 centimetres and for 2 metres on this extendable pole, which I believe came from JCar.
Ooh, advertising. Tut tut. I take that back. JCar's
We're
horrible.
working out lead lengths so we see which one goes on top. 4-element beam, sorry, for 2 metres, and the 6 for 70 centimetres.
And Peter stacked them, that's one.
Yep.
You can have one socket on 2 metres and the other on 70 centimetres. So that is, so we'll make that for 2 metres.
Using an FT817, please note.
It's the 2 metre rig going in. And that's going to this steerable pole up there with 70 centimetres a bit droopy and 2 metres a bit below.
Yeah, it's a bit droopy.
And this is sideband, so the horizontal polarisation was appropriate.
Okay, we're getting the Geelong and the Gippsland beacons here.
Geelong beacon on 70 centimetres, Gippsland beacon on 2 metres. VK3AML, Mount Anakin. So 2 metres there, 70 centimetres there. We'll use this socket for 6 metres as well. QRZ.
course, as soon as I push the button to record video, it stops.
DQ Field Day, VK3YE, Victor Kilo 3 Yankee Echo. VK3YE Portable calling CQ and listening. Victor Kilo 3 Yankee Echo. VK3YE Portable calling CQ and listening. We'll try 2 metres.
VK2 Sierra Foxtrot Portable.
It works then.
Yep.
VK3 Yankee Echo Portable.
Again?
VK3 Yankee Echo. VK3YE.
This is on 6 metres.
Peter, VK3YE?
Yeah, QSL.
Good day, Peter. This is Kevin. Kilo Echo Victory India November. QDH is 40 k's west of the city of Sydney. You're very weak, unfortunately. I can just hear you with the preamp on, and you might be just a 0 and a 4, but sometimes I can just pick up your call sign, so it's just readable, Peter. VK3YE, VK2VH.
Yeah, VK2VH, VK3 Yankee Echo Portable. Okay, Kevin. All okay, Kevin. You're a good signal. You're a good signal. You are 5 by 9. 5 by 9. Running 5 watts to an end-fed wire. 5 watts to an end-fed wire. Over.
Beautiful, Peter. You're doing great for 5 watts indeed. So thanks for answering my call, mate, and good luck in the contest. 73s.
73.
And here we're in the vicinity of the Paratea Reserve. There's the Paratea Preschool.
I am using an external beam.
And you can hear Peter there.
I am using a 6-element beam. Over.
Although we were high up, there was no view here, unfortunately, but it is 160 metres above sea level, an excellent VHF location.
The Conservation and Ham Radio Reserve today.
Roger, 144, 185, I'll QSY.
Peter's still operating on 6 metres, 2 metres and 70 centimetres back along that track there. I just thought I'd break away and have a look at the Australian bush here for a moment. I got attracted out here by the sound of a tawny frogmouth's hooting, and I can't locate him, but he is out here somewhere. Nice eucalypt forest here. I hope I can find my way back.
And I did.
Oh, VK3 MAW, VK3 Yankee Echo Portable.
VK3YE, VK3 MAW, 59003.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for the 59003. My number to you is 5904545, and I'm in QF21NT. QF21NT. And what is your locator there? Over.
Yeah, Queen Fox 21 Echo Victor, QF21EV.
Yeah, Roger. Thanks for that. Yeah, my name is Peter, just in Frankston South. Do you have 2 metres at all? Over.
Yeah, certainly do, Peter. Name here is Andre in Geelong, and yeah, give me a frequency, I'll meet you on soon.
Okay, 144, 165, 165, over.
Yeah, QFL, QF1.
Peter's the antenna tuner for 6 metres at the bottom.
Signal there, Andre. VK3MAW, VK3YE portable, your 59046 over.
QSL 1046, 59004. Yeah, running a little bit more power on 2 metres, makes a bit of a difference.
Yeah, it certainly does. Anyway, there's another station who wishes to call you.
Whenever I leave this part of Australia, I somehow become homesick for this sort of scenery. Even when I lived in the suburbs, much more deeply in the suburbs at Surrey Hills or Camberwell Junction, this sort of scenery you could get at one of the local parks that had been kept in its original condition, Wattle Park. Here, for example, that sort of tree with that sort of fine leaf is called a she-oak, and they're characteristic of coastal scrub in Australia.
This is for overseas viewers.
She-oak. Most of these other trees are eucalypt. And you'll note that in autumn they shed their bark, not their leaves. They're deciduous, the leaves stay all year. And now disassembling the station. This is Peter with the 2 beam antennas joined together. We only managed to lose a little of the top of the squid pole, and it all packs up into these few bags with a couple of squid poles to be held by yours truly, along with the beam antennas for 2 metres and 70 centimetres, which Peter is going to wrap up with some Velcro strips, which you see there.
Very handy Velcro, as you can see. A good
and
suggestion.
Performing the last of the disassemblage functions. This is about 6 p.m. And here are the products of this afternoon's tests. A complete day's worth of recording contacts from several different states. Queensland.
I don't think we did Queensland.
Yes, we did. We got a
sure?
VK4 somewhere. I'm fairly sure.
Oh, but it was portable VK2.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's VK4 ADC.
Yes.
But
anyway,
yeah, Northern New South Wales it was all.
Northern New South Wales and all, very successful. 6 metres was open. We're very happy.
And so we made our bus journey home. Yes, Peter had planned it out on public transport. And eventually I took the bus back to Burwood East up Springvale Road, arriving at something like 10 p.m. This is VK3 Alpha Mike Lima with a selection of material video recorded by yours truly on various field days over the last 12 years. I thought I'd compile it. It's about time I edited this stuff, some going back to 2009. Bit of an embarrassment that it hasn't been out already. With the QRP by the Bay, you'll notice that as each of these went on, they got bigger, and by 2018 it really had hit its stride. In 2018 also I acquired the Sony AX53 4K camera, so the picture quality took a bit of a leap. And in the opening of this coverage of the 2018 QRP by the Bay, you'll see Chelsea Station as it was, recently removed. It's now a hole in the ground, a cutting, and so only these memories survive. I went down incidentally with Steve 3SL in his car, as you will note. At Peter Parker 3YE's QRP by the Bay, Victory Park, Chelsea, 3rd of November 2018. In Steve Langley 3SL's car, travelling past Chelsea Station, now demolished. The station, not the car.
Here we are on our way to the QRP by the Bay, and over here somewhere is Steve.
Not looking at the camera.
I hope not. I hope he keeps his hands on the steering wheel too. VK3AML, currently shooting with a new Sony Handycam and hoping to God I've got the right controls on this. And here we are in beautiful downtown Chelsea, opposite the station, and about to head for where the missions are going on. What else can I say? Not a great deal. The image stabilisation seems to be holding the image fairly steady, which is all to the good, he said. Over the rail line, past the station, and heading for Victory Park. Is it this far north? I think it is. Avondale Street. Can we see any hedgehog-looking cars down here yet?
Hedgehog cars, as in covered in antennas. And this was a slightly less blustery day on Chelsea Beach, though most of them are pretty windy and difficult to record sound for because of the wind noise problem. I can see why Peter moved down here from Carnegie. Certainly having the beach handy has attractions for just general walks apart from ham radio portable. There was this flying shark. I was surprised to see that the guy flying it didn't have a wire on it, knowing the local interest, and here we are, just arriving at the, Steve tripping over an antenna, just arriving at the QRP by the Bay for 2018. This chap was setting up QRP CW. You'll see his key there, an antenna tuner and a QRP rig. The rig at the top left, battery suppliers AA cells, interestingly. And there's Tom, 3FTOM, and on the right VK3SKT, Adam.
Well, it is supposed to be a 40-metre helically wound, centre-loaded vertical antenna. But I found on 40 metres it's got an SWR of about 30. So I have to put it through an antenna matcher. But it's convenient that I can bang the pole in the ground and then just put the end of this over it. And it doesn't need guying.
Yeah, I noticed the garden stake you were using. Interesting way of doing it.
And I have used it while I'm away. The dipoles on it, and it's strong enough to support them.
Right.
What sort of squid pole is this?
It's a 7-metre squid pole.
Right. Made by the people, distributed by the people in Sydney, or?
I got this from a fishing shop in Briar Hill.
Oh, okay. So they're sold locally.
Yeah.
Do you mind me asking how much the?
I think this was $49.
$49.
Yeah.
They're getting
I believe
cheaper.
you can get them a lot cheaper.
Okay. Okay. Usual suspects.
I'm not going on YouTube.
Yes, you are.
Getting out of it.
Hang on. I think this is the Bitex transceiver, built in India, and it works out at I think about $120 for this. You have to provide the box and the attachments yourself. And there's Bob Tate.
I did a video on pulling these.
And there's the most important accessories of all, the biscuits, specifically Tim Tams. Tom, VK3FTOM on the right, and 3SKT at the table. By this time, QRP by the Bay had expanded to the point where if you have a good day, and we did, there's Dave 3ASC behind that pole, and Steve 3SL in the cap. And there's Peter's FT817, Peter Parker.
This is 40 metres AM.
Lots of selective fade.
We have other radios here.
Sounds like 3ZZ on the air.
You've got a strong carrier here.
Dave 3ASC with his arms folded, 3BEK on the left. There's Dave 3ASC. Peter Parker on the right. All in confab, which commonly happens when you get a number of alphas together. And somebody with an RF power amp that's capable of much more than legal hopefully has it throttled back. Oh, it's Dave. And Steve. I think we were discussing how to adapt commercial equipment for the amateur service with this particular example. That's Steve VK3SL's new BitX on the left, BitX transceiver.
Roger there. Ian, yeah, the name is Ross. Romeo, Oscar, Sugar. Name is Ross. And,
is that Ross down South Gippsland?
Yeah. Might gain off a little bit.
That
just a bit over
is just off
there, like you're running about
this
25,
antenna.
All right.
25 watts there. But yeah, just need to back the audio.
No doubt about loops.
That's amazing. I'm getting Ross just with this antenna.
Very good, mate. You're down about Arthur. You'd have a good takeoff point down there with the water. No doubt about that. We're only running into a very low dipole here, only about 20-25 feet high. We're running a homebrew transmitter with a pair of 100 THs in push-pull with a series.
The 100 TH, that was a valve that was introduced about 1929, I think. One of the oldest of the PA valves that's still viable. By 2018, when this was filmed, a few of the guys had apps for Whisper and WSJT that they could run on their phones, holding the microphone of the rig over the phone, which you'll see in a while.
I thought it was now something.
I might add, if you do get the opportunity, do look in on VK3AML.com, where Peter talks about any planned gatherings of this type. Now that we're out of lockdown, it's likely that Peter will plan another gathering. They're obviously trying to decipher what's coming in from a station very distant there. That's Steve's BitX transceiver, Steve 3SL.
Oh yeah, he's just down in Frankston.
I don't go in all these fancy logs and things, but when you get older, you find it
Actually, the socialising that goes on at these events is as important as any technical discussions that goes on. Most of these people have known each other by voice for upwards of 20 years. But seeing them face to face is much, much rarer. So Peter Peter3AML by organising this QRP by the Bay is providing a valuable social service. Now this is Peter operating whisper mode through his mobile phone. A very narrow frequency modulated system using an audio tone.
This is whisper mode, WSPR, and stations from all around the world have receivers set up, and they then report the signals to a website. Okay. So we're just checking that, and we can see that we've been received. There's another one, VK5FQ, VK7JJ, VK5EI on 10 megahertz.
Right.
And before that we were on 7 megahertz, and it was being picked up by VK5s and VK3s.
All worked through a mobile phone, please note.
Which shows that we're radiating.
Okay, we're being irradiated by this loop antenna. And he's transmitting through the loop, which is only a foot square. Does my proximity have any effect on the tuning?
No, it's sensitive, but not that.
Right. I might add, while there's not too much talk on this, that we'll be having talk back in a few minutes. This is the most important part of QRP by the Bay, the after party. There's 3BK Andrew on the left, 3SL, Dave 3ASC, all at the Peruvian restaurant down in Chelsea. And there's Nigel Holmes, who was the former programming man for Radio Australia on the right. And I had the best pork belly I have ever tasted. Really good. And there's Dan Merter's selection. And coffee to follow. Dave and Nigel Holmes having a chat. End of the day. The departure out the front. This is about 8 o'clock at night. Andrew? Yes. It seems to be giving a noise-free picture here, which is surprising.
Very good. Well, there's an empty.
Anyway, I'll see you later.
Okay, all the best, Andrew. We'll catch you soon.
Cheers.
And we have just been to Inti, which is in here.
Well, just as a matter of trivia, you should get a shot of the blocked out lettering above the shop.
Hang on.
Where it's there was Inca and then it was scrubbed out.
What was that?
I suspect there was another one called Inca. That would be my guess. And then on here, it's somewhat unofficially done with
And there's Dan.
And it's been like that for many years.
Just broken your camera.
And if we'd set back one more, we would have got one over.
Yes. That would have been a good clip showing us getting one.
And this is the end of the night. And so we come to the end of QRP by the Bay in November 2018. It only took me 4 years to edit that. This is VK3AML testing with the regular Saturday night test. We'll be throwing it open for a discussion on 147.475. But first of all, I should pay tribute particularly to two particular guys who have organised field days for amateurs that have been of great social import and to some extent of technical importance in tying everybody together in a cohesive way, and that is QRP by the Bay, Lower Power Operation by the Bay, run by Peter Parker, and it's been going now for close on 10 years. And the efforts that Tom, VK3FTOM, who at the age of I think 17 or 18 at the moment, has managed to organise several tests from Paratea Reserve. Very laudable, so thank you gentlemen if you're watching, either live or on replay. I hope people got something out of that. It's very difficult for me to judge from reactions until comments come in as to exactly what people are interested in seeing on these Saturday night sessions, and I can only hope I'm making an educated guess as to the program material that'll be of interest. And as I edit more of my piles of video files, shot and stored away but never yet produced for consumption by people other than myself, more of this will emerge from the archives. There's one particular film I can think of, 8mm, shot on 8mm movie film, 1st of January 1975. I must actually put that up next week. It was the first film in which I appeared at a kind of a field day at Altona Beach on New Year's Eve 1975, shot by Tony Sanderson, the late Tony Sanderson, and at the time I was trying to get biplane box kites rather spectacularly unsuccessfully launched. They would launch, but there was no wind to hold them up. So these field days, sometimes even the unsuccessful ones, can be illuminating in what they tell you about the technology. The time being 10:54, it's just about time for me to open up for discussion. Usually we open up at 11, but I had a slight shortfall of material this week as a result of combining lots of little bits of video coverage. I wasn't sure how much should be added to pad out the sections between, so I kept it brief. But I hope that's of interest to people. So, without any further ado, I'll now open it up for discussion on 147.475, and hopefully that'll work. I've had this whole station here ripped out so that we could go to the Columbia Park with 3FTOM on Cup Day, only about 6 days ago. So consequently, something might be as yet unconnected that I haven't predicted. Hopefully it'll be okay. This is VK3AML calling CQ on 147.475 and standing by. Hang on, I'll just get the level on the mixer up. And standing by for any calls.
VK3ACZ and VK3 Echo Charlie Golf.
Okay, we've got VK3ACZ and VK3ECG. I'll take Peter first. I hope the video of you lived up to expectations. I know people sometimes are a bit shocked when they see materials shot candid, so hopefully it was okay. VK3ACZ, VK3AML.
VK3AML in the group from VK3ACZ. Good evening, Chris, and good evening, Dave, and all listeners. Well, yes, seeing myself on the screen, that reminded me to get on that diet I've been talking about for so long. Hi. But yeah, Chris, you asked the question, are we interested in that sort of thing? Well, I think anybody who's been through the lockup that we've had over a period of time now and been deprived of contact of that very nature would be very interested. I know that when we met last Tuesday at Columbia Park, there was a strange feeling of unreality about it. Is this really happening? Is this real? What's wrong? Our comfort zone merely because we've been deprived for so long. So it was wonderful to see all that. Now, just a quick comment about the technical side of it. Peter was sitting down at the seat, a desk to explain Whisper. There was a bit of a freeze happened on my system for about 30 seconds or so, but otherwise it was a fault-free broadcast entirely. You got to love Peter Parker. I don't know, Mr. MacGyver, or the MacGyver of our radio, I've heard him referred to as, and quite appropriate. I think he absolutely with some of the concoctions he rigs up in, and it's just wonderful. Tom, I think VK3FTOM is 16, if I recall. I think I asked him just the other day. And Dave, it's on your conscience. I hope you're happy. because you had your little 705 there out playing portable on Tuesday, and I was watching it there with great enthusiasm. Because of you, and it's all your fault, a brand new 7300 followed me home on Friday, and it's sitting here on the desk in front of me. In fact, just before the broadcast started, I was unable to reply to, but I heard a 9 November station up in Nepal calling on 20 metres. It's a beautiful radio. It's got a fantastic noise reduction system on it, the equal to and possibly even the superior of the digital noise reduction on my Yaesu FTD X10. But there you go. It's going to be my portable rig. As soon as I found out that it only drew an amp on receive, I thought, oh yes, I can manage that. But anyway, enough waffle for this over. Time to put it over to Dave, and thanks again for all the interesting stuff. I just wish I'd been on some of those QRP parties is all, Chris. But back to you. Hope you've had a good week. VK3 AML in the group, VK3ACZ.
VK3ACZ and the group VK3AML. Well, we've lost our webcam. The webcam has frozen, but the stream is still going with audio. So I'll leave the stream going. I don't know what's causing that. There was a lot of sort of a clicking noise on the audio. I just hope that the webcam hasn't died completely. It feels quite warm. Who knows? These things are sent to try us, but I can. I'll just see if I can run anything other than the webcam. And the video capture device is frozen. That's interesting. Absolutely frozen. And I have no idea what's caused it. So I'll have to fix that later. People that are on the text chat, if they can let me know whether they're still getting a stream of audio, I'd appreciate that. But I guess now that we're on Talkback, it won't matter a great deal. It indicates, everything indicates that I'm still streaming. Could somebody come onto the text chat, please, and just confirm that the audio is still there? And yeah, I can. It could be that my video card has failed. Anyway, yeah, Columbia Park, a masterful job of organisation by VK3FTOM, and that bloke is worthy of great praise for that. I'll just pull out the webcam. Audio good. Okay, Dave, thanks for that. I don't know what's happened to the webcam, but the video channel has failed. Fortunately, just long enough for me to get all the film components out. So the rest of this will be video free. I'll just take it to a blank frame. Just hang on. There's a way of doing this. So I do that and that. Media source, and wait for it to go black, and then hit pause. Oh damn, I can't make it pause either. It appears that our software is at fault. So I'll leave it with the picture frozen. Apologies to people on the stream. At least you got the video inserts okay. Columbia Park was nice to see people face to face. I think it was the first time I've seen Dave 3ECG directly, and apart from some parties many years ago at Steve 3SL's place, And if you see strange things on the stream, please ignore them. Oh, these things are sent to try us. The first hot night we have, and the webcam goes west. I wonder if I plug it in again, whether there's going to be any better result. Plugging it in now. And looking at OBS software, and switch it on, and I just get a frozen frame. Absolutely no idea. Before I bumble on, having been completely derailed intellectually by that, I'll hand it on to VK3CG for comment. Sorry I can't give you feedback, but I've been totally bamboozled by this loss of webcam thing. VK3CG and group VK3AML, and I was interested to see that cup of yours with the Coroners Association written on it, and I thought, they might have been touching something nasty before drinking from this cup. VK3CG, VK3AML.
Yes, VK3AML and the group VK3ECG. Good evening, Peter. Yes, I hope not, and I am sure not. Yes, your screen's doing some. I'm just on the looking at the YouTube stream, and yes, you've got a perpetual lean at the moment, leaning over to your mixer, I think, and or underneath your receiver, and yes, and it has done. Did a couple of slightly strange things. You ran that tiny bit of video of you going past the Chelsea station just then with Steve driving, and then, and actually just before that, there was a sort of half black screen with the inverted back to front on the left of the screen. That only happened for a split second or so, and then it went back to the freeze frame when you unplug the camera and so on. I presume it's just got that frame on the video card, and it's just continually streaming that out. So I don't think much happened when. I think it might have gone to black when you pulled the camera out. When you put it back in again, it, as you said, it just showed that same frame. So I'm assuming it's just the whatever the memory left in the card is just sending that single frame. Interesting. Yes. Of course we had met before at Steve's interesting little cine shows he used to give for all the kids, and endless fun games on his driveway and inside the house from time to time, with all the audio stuff as well. And yeah, it was like when I first went to a couple of them, I hadn't seen him for quite some time. And as I said, Steve used to teach my daughter cello, and one of his friends from university taught my daughter classical guitar. So and occasionally I'd see him there too. Yeah, I must say I have to admire your photograph of the masked owl that you put up on Facebook. Rather nice, and pleased to see that a nice feature in the garden at daytime. So it was really very, very nice. Yeah, look, Tuesday was a lovely day. It's been a week where I took a bit of time off, and as is the way of these things with the weather, I kept getting reports that it was going to bucket with rain, not on the Tuesday, so I got all my portable gear ready myself to go and do some QRP portable, and then the rain forecast was there. Oh, well, I'll do it perhaps tomorrow. And of course, every day this has happened, the weather's been absolutely beautiful. And so, having packed all my stuff up and recharged all the batteries and got everything ready, I finished up doing other things around the house instead, and which was in retrospect silly, but you know, you can never trust the weathermen in these situations. But there we are. But it was quite fun to see yourselves on video, and I enjoyed seeing the equipment of the QRP by the Bay as well. Great to just see different arrangements people have got, and again I'm fascinated with the different antennas, and of course Peter being a real expert on
the antenna design issues. I've actually got books here, and that's inspired me to do a few bits and pieces with odd bits of wire and see what I can put together. And as I said, I've been running wires up into trees on Forth Hill in Warrandyte, just swinging a wire up into the tree and then just pulling it up and using that little tuner unit that I built just as a simple little end-fed half-wave, and it's been quite fun, and certainly on 20 evenings, early evenings, you can get some really quite interesting propagation. Hasn't been quite so good today, but listening around, but I haven't had a lot of time to be on. I'm glad to hear, Peter, that you succumbed, and I'm sure you'll love the receiver. 300, but it's receiver, essentially SDR receiver, isn't it? So, and I suspect very similar to what's going on in the 705. I can see you've got an active, Chris. You've just appeared on the YouTube feed with a test card. Just appeared and slid in. So something's happening. Back to you to find out exactly what. VK3AML and the group VK3ECG.
Yeah, Peter. Sorry, Dave. Well, I've discovered that everything but the webcam works. I can insert video, I can insert stills, as you can see there. I just can't run the webcam. I don't know what's happened. I hope it hasn't failed permanently, because it's quite a good webcam, as you could probably tell. But if we have to replace it, we have to replace it. It was making clicking noises on audio before it finally froze, and when I plug it back in, it brings up the same freeze frame, so heaven knows. It could be the video capture card, who knows. All very strange. Yeah, you mentioned the photo I put up of the masked owl in the tree at the back. The birds had been behaving very strangely, as frequently they do before a major storm hits, because I think they sense when the winds are coming up, they have to get back to their trees, their roosts. Otherwise they could do themselves a lot of damage in the violent winds of a storm. I'm sure that's what it is. So we had a group of very noisy currawongs in a gum tree out the back here. This is about 2:30 this afternoon. So I went out to have a look at them, because we don't normally get currawongs that commonly here, and as I was examining the tree, I thought, there's a big lumpy bird up there that I've never seen before, and it was a masked owl. I believe that because of depredations of their environment, their forest environment, that they've become reasonably rare. And it's nice to see owls around, because they'll certainly keep mice and rats down if we've got any population of those. But very pretty bird. I walked underneath the tree, and the noisy miners made alarm noises in response to my proximity, and at that point the masked owl woke up and peered at me with those big black eyes. I believe that the predatory birds, like the owls, have a much higher level of intelligence than the average bird, as do parrots, I think. But it depends on how you define intelligence, of course. A bird's intellect would be aimed at a different set of lifestyle parameters to humans or apes or whatever. The thing that gets me about QRP by the Bay, which has grown so much over the last 10 years, you could probably tell from the early one that I filmed, they were lucky if you'd have a half a dozen, maybe 8 or 10 at the most. But that has grown to the point where all sorts of subgroups form at QRP by the Bay, and they have their little confabs within their own little groups. It's really at the dinner afterwards that the good things get discussed as a group. Actually, I find that with conferences as well. I used to be Vice President of the International Association of Sound Archives Australian Division, and although there were lectures at our yearly conferences in Canberra, most of the viable business that got done between members was done over lunch or dinner, frequently boozy dinners. So all the attempts, I remember Tony Sanderson 15 years ago telling me that they had tried with CSIRO to get video conferencing going, which in those days had to be done independent of the net, under their own steam very expensively, and found that video conferencing was good in theory, but the fact that people didn't get together to socialise and do business in an informal way meant that video conferencing was largely unsuccessful as a mode of holding a conference, at least on the level that the CSIRO usually does it. But Peter Parker and Tom particularly are to be praised for pushing for social events like that. What really disturbs me about the trend in amateur radio is that there's a trend away from discursive contacts such as the one we have on Saturdays, and that's the reason why I like to put together a solid 90 minutes of video material and then follow it up by what do you call it? Follow it up with a discussion. I've got a message from Terry that they're getting ripping on audio. I don't know quite what that means. You say plug into a different port. It's plugged into the sound card input, which is the only input I've got. So I don't know. Maybe I should close the stream at this stage, fellas, because obviously a number of things are ceasing to function. I am still streaming, but it's obviously not working well. So with regret, if the people remaining could revert to using 147.475, I'll close the stream at this stage and keep it to radio only, with apologies to people that have tuned into view. This is VK3AML closing this week's audio stream, live stream on internet, and hoping that people will tune in next Saturday. And with that, I'll stop streaming.